For decades, Bruce Willis filled our screens with courage, humor, and unforgettable characters. But behind the scenes, a very different story has been unfolding, one of struggle, loss, and a family fighting to hold on to the man they love. As frontotemporal dementia slowly steals pieces of him away, we look back on the life of a legend and the painful reality his family now faces. This is the truth behind Bruce Willis's silent battle. We're turning now to Bruce Willis. It's been nearly 3 months since his family revealed that the legendary actor would be stepping away from his career after being diagnosed with aphasia, a moment that stunned fans around the world. In today's top trending stories, we have a new health update on the beloved star, as his wife prepares to release her upcoming book. Doctors later confirmed that Bruce is facing frontotemporal dementia, a rare and devastating brain disorder that continues to progress. Now 70, Bruce Willis, the man who defined toughness, wit, and unshakable bravery on the big screen, is living through one of the most heartbreaking chapters of his life. For decades, audiences watched him leap from exploding buildings, outsmart villains, and play the indestructible hero who always found a way to survive. But today, that same hero is fighting a battle he cannot outrun. His illness has slowly taken away the thing he loves most, performing, and forced him to step out of the spotlight he once owned. And though he remains surrounded by family, love, and care, the world can't help but feel the weight of watching an icon fade from the stage he lit up for so many years. His family remains firmly by his side, holding on to every precious moment with him, while fans around the world struggle to accept the painful reality of his decline. This isn't just the story of a Hollywood actor. It's the heartfelt farewell of a man who gave everything to his craft and is now stepping away with the same quiet strength that made him a legend. Bruce Willis was born on March 19, 1955, in Idar-Oberstein, West Germany, where his American father, David, served as a soldier and his German mother, Marlene, worked to support their young family. When Bruce was just 2 years old, the family returned to the United States, settling in Carneys Point, New Jersey, a modest, working-class town that helped shape his grit, humility, and down-to-earth nature. His parents were hard-working people. His father became a welder and mechanic, while his mother took a job at a local bank. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and it laid the foundation for Bruce's resilience. Growing up, Bruce struggled with a stutter so severe that speaking often felt like a daily battle. But everything changed when he joined the school drama club. The moment he stepped on stage, something extraordinary happened. His stutter disappeared. Acting didn't just give him a voice, it gave him confidence, purpose, and a sense of identity. By his senior year, he had even become student council president, already displaying the magnetic charm that would one day captivate millions. After high school, Bruce drifted through a series of blue-collar jobs. He guarded a nuclear power plant, drove workers at a chemical factory, and even worked briefly as a private investigator. These weren't glamorous roles, but each one taught him something about people, about life, and about perseverance. Eventually, he realized that the only place he truly belonged was under the spotlight. He enrolled at Montclair State University to study drama, but his hunger for a real acting career pushed him to leave early and head straight to New York City. There, he hustled in Hell's Kitchen, tending bar while pouring every spare moment into auditions, waiting, hoping, and grinding for the break he knew he was meant for. And soon, the world would discover him. When Bruce Willis first burst onto television screens in Moonlighting from 1985 to 1989, no one could have predicted that the quick-witted private detective David Addison would become one of the defining faces of Hollywood's golden era. Competing against thousands of aspiring actors, Willis landed the role that would transform his entire life. His electric chemistry with co-star Sybil Shepherd lit up the screen, blending charm, sarcasm, and heart with an effortlessness that felt revolutionary. The performance earned him both an Emmy and a Golden Globe, and announced to the world that a new star had arrived. With fame came opportunities, and soon Willis became the face of Seagram's wine coolers, earning millions from the endorsement. But in a rare act of honesty and discipline in an industry overflowing with excess, he walked away from the deal when he quit drinking, a quiet decision that revealed the integrity beneath the celebrity. Then came 1988, the moment everything changed. Bruce didn't just cross from television to film, he exploded onto the big screen with Die Hard. As John McClane, the everyday New York cop trapped inside a Los Angeles skyscraper, Willis didn't play a typical action hero. He redefined one. His bruised humor, vulnerability, and raw humanity made McClane feel real, relatable, and audiences around the globe instantly connected with him. But Willis refused to be boxed in. That same year, he showcased his emotional depth in Blind Date and in Country, and even delivered unforgettable comedic timing as the voice of baby Mikey in Look Who's Talking. It became clear he wasn't just an action star, he was a true performer with remarkable range. The 1990s brought both triumphs and turbulence. His fame skyrocketed through new Die Hard sequels, but it was his role in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction that reminded the world of his power as a dramatic actor. With quiet intensity and understated emotion, Willis gave the film one of its strongest emotional anchors, proving once again that beneath the blockbuster hero was a deeply skilled storyteller. And by then, one thing was undeniable: Bruce Willis wasn't just a star, he was becoming an icon. But between the box office giants, there were missteps, films like Hudson Hawk, Color of Night, and a handful of others that critics tore apart. Yet fans kept renting them on VHS, keeping Bruce's spirit alive in living rooms across America. He took each failure with that same trademark shrug and half smile, brushing off the jokes and returning stronger every time. And return he did. With 12 Monkeys, he stunned audiences with a haunting, dramatic performance. In The Fifth Element, he delivered offbeat sci-fi charm. And then came Armageddon, a massive global hit that didn't just save the world on screen, it saved Willis's wavering career off-screen. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, Bruce transformed into cinema's seasoned warrior, the grizzled veteran who had seen it all. He dominated in Sin City, brought humor and heart to Red, and delivered a powerful, time-twisting turn in Looper. He made fans laugh in Friends, let comedians roast him on Comedy Central, and even shocked Broadway audiences with his performance in Misery. His later years became a celebration of everything he'd built: cameos, voice roles, nostalgic returns to beloved franchises. Yet behind the tough guy persona, there was always a quiet, reflective wisdom, the awareness that his journey from a stuttering kid in New Jersey to one of Hollywood's greatest icons was both miraculous and fleeting. Bruce Willis's story has never just been an action movie. It has always been something far more human, a bittersweet echo of a man who fought his way into stardom and carried its weight with grace, humor, and grit. Then, in March 2022, the world was blindsided. Bruce Willis's family released heartbreaking news. The legendary action hero had been diagnosed with aphasia, a devastating neurological disorder that robs a person of their ability to communicate. He could still think, still feel, still understand, but the words that once came effortlessly, sharp, funny, commanding, now refused to form. The man whose voice defined decades of cinema suddenly found himself trapped inside a painful, unfamiliar silence. And then came an even darker revelation. By early 2023, doctors confirmed the diagnosis everyone had feared: Bruce Willis was suffering from frontotemporal dementia, a progressive, unforgiving disease that doesn't just steal words, it steals pieces of a person's identity. There was no cure, no treatment plan, only the painful certainty of an irreversible decline. His family could do nothing but stay close, holding on as the man they loved slowly slipped away in front of their eyes. Months later, in December 2024, his ex-wife Demi tried to reassure the public, telling fans that Bruce was stable, but that word brought little comfort. Instead, it raised a haunting question. Was stable just a gentler way of saying things had gotten worse? Reports at the time suggested that Bruce could no longer form full sentences. He could barely read. Even walking had become a struggle. The same man who once did his own stunts, who ran across exploding sets and leaped off buildings for our entertainment, now fought just to take a few steps. His wife, Emma Willis, later admitted how terrifying it all was. In the beginning, when Bruce's speech began to falter, she thought it might simply be the return of his childhood stutter. She had no idea that something far more devastating was unfolding. Even more heartbreaking, Emma revealed that Bruce may not fully grasp what's happening to him. He lives in a painful in-between, aware yet unaware, present yet drifting somewhere far away. She fills his days with warmth, with music, with familiar faces, choosing love even when the world around her feels unbearably heavy. But in August 2025, her decision shook the public. She revealed that Bruce had been moved into a separate home with 24-hour caregivers. Some people accused her of giving up. Others defended her as a devoted partner trying to survive an impossible situation. Emma explained that Bruce would have wanted their daughters, 12-year-old Mabel and 10-year-old Evelyn, to grow up in a home full of joy and normalcy, not defined by the constant shadow of illness. Yet making that choice tore her apart. She is no longer just a wife. She has become a caregiver, a protector, and the keeper of the memory of the man the world once saw as unbreakable. She is a caregiver, a mother, and a woman doing everything she can to hold her family together while watching her husband fade in ways she never imagined. Her daughters feel the ache of that absence every day. They miss the father who used to make them laugh at breakfast, who never missed a school recital, who always remembered the small rituals that made their world feel safe. Now, there are heartbreaking moments when Bruce doesn't remember birthdays, routines, or the little gestures that once defined him as a loving dad. Emma worries constantly about how the slow loss of the father they once knew will shape them for the rest of their lives. By July 2025, after months of rumors and harsh opinions from strangers, Emma finally broke her silence. She begged the public to stop judging choices made inside a home gripped by grief, decisions born from love, exhaustion, and heartbreak, because behind the headlines is a family learning how to say goodbye in pieces, losing a little more of the man they love with each passing day. Bruce Willis's decline didn't just shock the world, it tore apart the people closest to him. His eldest daughter, Tallulah, later revealed she had misunderstood the earliest signs of his illness. Before the diagnosis was known, she thought her dad had drifted away emotionally. She believed his silence meant disinterest, that he simply didn't care anymore. He didn't seem present, she admitted, a realization that haunted her once the truth came out. What she mistook for distance was actually the slow unraveling of his mind. Now, Tallulah speaks openly about that guilt, reminding others to pay attention, to ask questions, to look deeper, because sometimes love doesn't vanish, it simply gets hidden behind the fog of illness. Through every heartbreak, the Willis family has remained united. Demi Moore, Bruce's ex-wife and longtime friend, continues to stand closely by their side. She joins family gatherings, supports the children, and shares warm photos that show the reality behind closed doors. A family holding on to each other with everything they have. On Bruce's 70th birthday, they all came together, creating a moment frozen in time, proof that while Bruce's memory may be slipping away, their love for him is unwavering. But the signs of his struggle had been surfacing long before the world knew the truth. Between 2018 and 2022, Bruce appeared in over 20 films, a staggering number, even for a seasoned actor. Many of these roles were brief, oddly structured, or filmed under unusual circumstances. To fans, it looked like he was simply taking on too many projects. To those around him, something felt off. He often relied on an earpiece to receive his lines because memorizing them had become nearly impossible. Scenes were rewritten or shortened on the spot to work around moments when he suddenly went silent or seemed confused. There were days on set when Bruce appeared lost, unsure of where he was or what was happening. His colleagues sensed there was something deeply wrong, but no one knew the full truth. What looked like a creative resurgence was, in reality, a heartbreaking race against time, a man unknowingly fighting to keep working, to keep shining, before the light inside him began to dim. And soon the world would understand just how fragile those last years in the spotlight really were. They weren't the high-budget blockbusters that once defined him. They were smaller, rushed productions, films built around the glow of his name more than the substance of the story. Studios knew that even a few days of Bruce Willis on set could turn a modest script into a profitable release. He could still earn millions for just a handful of scenes. But behind that glossy surface, something was deeply, painfully wrong. People on set began noticing the cracks before the public ever heard the word aphasia. He struggled to remember lines he would have once delivered with effortless swagger. Simple directions confused him. Timing, his greatest weapon in both comedy and action, slipped away from him like sand through fingers. The man whose instincts had carried entire franchises suddenly looked uncertain, even frightened. During the filming of Hard Kill in 2020, co-star Lala Kent recalled a moment that shook everyone present. Bruce fired a prop gun at the wrong time, twice. No one was hurt, but the air around the crew changed. The invincible action hero of Die Hard, a man once trusted with the most dangerous stunts, now seemed vulnerable in a way that defied belief. After that, his team, especially his longtime assistant Stephen J. Eads, quietly stepped in to shield him. They shortened his dialogue, simplified his scenes, rearranged shots so he wouldn't be overwhelmed. Their job was no longer helping him shine, it was protecting his dignity. One insider admitted, in a moment of heartbreaking honesty, "We had to make him look good. He was being puppeted." Those words linger. They capture the tragedy of watching someone known for strength suddenly slip into uncertainty. On the set of Midnight in the Switchgrass, director Randall Emmett reportedly struggled to guide Bruce through what should have been routine motions, kicking down a door, hitting a mark, repeating a line fed to him through an earpiece. Even with help, confusion often clouded his expression. Crew members described him as distant, drifting, sometimes pausing in the middle of a scene to ask, "Why am I here?" It was the kind of question that breaks people long after it's asked. Behind closed doors, whispers began spreading through the industry. Some believe certain filmmakers kept hiring him even after realizing something was wrong, choosing profit over compassion. His presence guaranteed attention, his name guaranteed sales, and so the machine kept moving, even as he was struggling to keep up with it. The world saw the movie posters, the headlines, the familiar smirk, but those who were there saw the truth. A beloved icon quietly fighting a battle he didn't fully understand, surrounded by people trying their best to hold him up as the lights dimmed around him. For Bruce's family, the diagnosis forced them into a new reality, one where love became both a lifeline and a daily act of bravery. Emma, his wife, became his anchor, a caregiver, a mother, and a woman trying to stay strong even as her heart shattered piece by piece. There were days when Bruce still recognized her, still reached for her hand with the same warmth he had carried all his life, and there were days when he drifted somewhere unreachable, lost in a silence no one could break. She learned to cherish the moments that remained, even as they came fewer and farther between. Their daughters felt the loss in ways they struggled to put into words. He sometimes forgot birthdays, school events, or inside jokes that once made him laugh until he cried. The little rituals that defined him as a father, the dramatic bedtime stories, the silly voices, the surprise hugs, slowly vanished. Emma worried constantly about the imprint this would leave on them, whether they would remember the dad who played, protected, and adored them, or only the fading version who stared past them with tired, confused eyes. By July 2025, overwhelmed by gossip and speculation, Emma finally spoke out publicly. She begged people to stop judging a situation they couldn't possibly understand, because behind the headlines was a family learning how to mourn someone who was still alive, loving him, even as they slowly learned how to say goodbye, not all at once, but a little more with each passing day. Bruce's oldest daughter, Tallulah, later shared a heartbreaking truth of her own. Before the diagnosis, she misread the signs. She thought he was becoming distant, uninterested, maybe even tired of trying. He didn't seem present. He didn't respond the same way. She carried guilt for months, believing his silence meant he no longer cared. Today, she speaks openly about that misunderstanding, urging others to pay attention, to ask questions, to recognize that sometimes illness disguises itself as indifference. Sometimes love hides behind confusion. Through every step of this journey, Bruce's entire family remained united. His ex-wife, Demi Moore, stayed deeply involved, visiting often, sharing peaceful family photos online, images of kindness, gentleness, and a quiet sort of togetherness, moments frozen in time, even as his own ability to remember them faded. On his 70th birthday, they all reunited. 3 generations gathered around a man who could no longer articulate the depth of what they meant to him. But the love in the room didn't need words. It wrapped around him, around all of them, reminding them that even as memory slips away, connection does not. Yet long before the world knew what was happening, the signs were already there. Between 2018 and 2022, Bruce appeared in more than 20 films, not the massive blockbusters that once defined him, but quick, low-budget productions made to capitalize on his star power. He could make millions for just a few days of work, but behind the scenes, nothing felt right. The lines grew shorter, the conversations simpler, the performances more distant, and those close enough to see the truth carried a silent fear they didn't yet know how to name. What remains now is the quiet, the soft music playing in the background of a calm home, the gentle routines that keep him grounded, the family members who speak to him with patience, even when he cannot answer. Bruce is still physically mobile, still surrounded by the warmth of those who adore him, but his world has become smaller, softer, slower. The man who once filled movie theaters with explosive energy now lives in a space defined by tenderness and care, and his family, those who knew his courage better than anyone, now show their own. But in March 2023, something unexpected happened. Scientists at the University of Sheffield announced a faint but powerful glimmer of hope, a potential nasal spray treatment that might one day slow or even prevent certain forms of frontotemporal dementia. For the first time, there was a whisper of a future where families like the Willis family might not have to face this same nightmare. But hope can be cruel. This breakthrough is still years away from human trials, far too late to save Bruce himself. Yet for his daughters, who may carry the same genetic shadow, this discovery could one day change everything, a possibility that the illness stealing their father might never touch them. Today, Bruce is 70 years old. His condition is described as stable, a word that feels like a double-edged blade. It comforts the world, but it cuts deeply. Stable doesn't mean better, it means paused, suspended. He lives in a fragile in-between where familiar sparks of the man he was still flicker, but the glow is dimmer now. The distance between who he is and who he was grows quietly day by day. Emma Hemming Willis remains at his side, not just as a wife, but as his care partner, a title she uses with both heartbreak and pride. She manages every detail of his well-being, every routine, every moment of clarity while holding her daughters close and trying to keep their childhoods intact. When Mabel and Evelyn visit him in his care home, they still bring bursts of laughter into rooms now softened by silence. They hug him, talk to him, remind him with every smile that he is still loved, still needed, still theirs. His ex-wife, Demi Moore, and their older daughters, Rumer, Scout, and Tallulah, remain unwavering constants. They show up for birthdays, holidays, and small sacred family moments that have become more precious than any Hollywood premiere ever could be. Photographs from those gatherings show a family holding on to one another, choosing unity in the face of slow heartbreak. Because behind the clickbait headlines and the cruel online rumors, there's a truth the world misses entirely. This is not a story of abandonment. It is a story of endurance. It's the story of a wife fighting exhaustion and grief while raising two young children. The story of daughters mourning a father who is still physically here, yet slipping away shard by shard. The story of an ex-wife who stayed, not out of obligation, but out of love that never needed a title. Each of them holds a piece of Bruce, protecting him, remembering him, loving him through every stage of his fading world. For Bruce Willis, the man who once leapt off skyscrapers, walked barefoot through broken glass, and saved the world more times than Hollywood could count, this final chapter is heartbreakingly human. No explosions, no heroic one-liners, no last-minute rescue, just a slow, quiet, unbearably tender goodbye. A goodbye shared by the people who knew him not as an action star, but as a father, a partner, a friend, and a man who gave everything, his body, his voice, his spirit, to bring joy to millions. One by one, his abilities have slipped away. First his words, then his understanding, and finally the simple physical freedoms we all take for granted. And yet, in the quiet space left behind, something delicate and extraordinary remains. A softness, a purity, a fragile light held together by the love around him, the memories he gave us, and the unwavering courage of the people who now care for him day after day. As fans, our tribute to Bruce Willis doesn't end with rewatching Die Hard or quoting his iconic lines. We honor him by learning from his journey, by speaking openly about diseases like FTD, by supporting research that could save future families, and by breaking the silence around brain health in an industry that too often hides suffering behind bright lights and box office numbers. We can demand a Hollywood that protects its aging actors, that sets boundaries when health falters, that chooses compassion over profit, and refuses to let anyone suffer quietly behind the camera. Because Bruce Willis showed us what a hero truly is. Not just the man who walked barefoot across broken glass or saved the world with a grin, but the man who continued to face life with strength even as everything he once relied on slipped away. In the end, his legacy isn't just carved into film history. It lives in the love surrounding him, in the awareness his story has brought to millions, in the reminder that real courage is not always loud or explosive. Sometimes it's the quiet act of holding on, even as the world grows dim. And for Bruce Willis, that courage will forever be the brightest part of his story.